The Valdris Accord descended through Earth's atmosphere like a copper needle threading storm clouds. Inside its belly, 2,000 warriors from 17 Deathworlds stood in formation, the finest soldiers the Galactic Coalition had ever assembled. Krell shock troopers with acid-resistant hides. Veth hunters who could track heartbeats through solid rock. Draven berserkers who had raised entire moon colonies and eaten breakfast afterward. Commander Zyrex Thorn stood at the viewport, 4 of his 6 arms crossed behind his back, watching the green mass below grow larger. His species, the Tyrannek, were apex predators on a world where the atmosphere itself was mildly toxic. He had survived 3 planetary sieges. He had led campaigns across gas giants and frozen hellscapes. He had never lost more than 15% of a unit. He had also never been to Earth. "Sir," said Lieutenant Varek, a Draven whose shoulders barely fit through standard doorframes. "The human liaison is requesting a final briefing." Zyrex did not turn from the window. "Send him in." The door opened, and Ethan Cross walked through it. He was unremarkable by the standards of the ship. Medium height for a human, which meant small by galactic norms. No natural armor. No venom glands. No exoskeleton. His skin was a deep brown, his jaw carrying an old scar that curved from chin to ear like a question mark. He wore standard Coalition field gear, though he'd modified his boots with something he called duct tape, a phrase Zyrex's translator rendered as the material that binds the universe. He was smiling. This made Zyrex deeply uncomfortable. "You wanted to go over insertion protocols," Ethan said, pulling up a holographic map. "Amazon Basin, Sector 7. We're hitting the wet season. Here's what you need to know." He began speaking. Zyrex listened. The room grew very quiet. The Amazon, Ethan explained, was not a jungle. It was a war zone that had never been formally declared. Over 50 species of snake, several capable of killing an adult human in under 4 minutes. Parasitic wasps that implanted larvae inside living hosts. A fungus Ophiocordyceps that hijacked the nervous systems of insects and, in rare recent mutations, had begun displaying interest in larger organisms. Jaguars. Caimans. Bullet ants whose sting registered, on the human pain scale, as pure incandescent agony. Kangaroo fish. Disease vectors so ancient they predated human civilization. "That's in 1 square kilometer," Ethan said cheerfully. "It gets worse the further in you go." "And you grew up near this?" Varek asked slowly. "Grew up in it," Ethan said. "My family's from Manaus. Spent summers with my grandmother in the deep basin. She taught me how to treat a fer-de-lance bite with materials you can find within 10 meters of where you're standing." He paused. "You have to move fast, though." Zyrex studied the human. "And your mission parameters are clear? You guide our forward team to the artifact site. 12 hours. In and out." Ethan looked at him for a long moment. "Commander. I want to flag something." "Speak." 2,000 soldiers is too many. You're going to lose people." The silence that followed was the kind that precedes an insult. "We are Deathworld veterans," Zyrex said carefully. "Every soldier on this ship has survived conditions your scientists classify as incompatible with life." Ethan nodded. "I know. I read the dossiers. Genuinely impressive." He tapped the holographic map. "But your Deathworlds kill you fast. Predators. Pressure. Temperature. Things you can see coming, things you can fight." He zoomed in on the jungle canopy. "The Amazon kills you slowly. With things you can't see. Things that are patient. Things that have been evolving kill strategies for 66 million years." He looked up. "There's a difference." Zyrex sent in 2,000 soldiers. Joe was the first to go, on the 2nd hour. A Krell trooper, 300 kilograms of acid-resistant chitin, she stepped into what appeared to be a shallow stream. The electric eel beneath the surface discharged 400 volts directly into her central nervous system. She was dead before her squadmates understood what had happened. Me was next, another Krell, who reached for a tree branch to steady herself on a steep bank. The branch was a green vine snake, 5 feet long, the color of new leaves. She survived the bite. She did not survive the subsequent fall into the river, which had been noticed by 3 caimans. New York fell to the fungus. Not Ophiocordyceps, something older, something the coalition biologists hadn't catalogued yet, a spore cloud that hung motionless in a shaft of filtered light. It looked beautiful. He walked through it because it looked beautiful. Within 40 minutes he was running a fever that his species' body chemistry could not regulate. He was gone by nightfall. Died drowned. Not in a river, in 3 inches of water, unconscious from a wasp sting, face down in a puddle no wider than his palm. The wasps had not been aggressive. He had simply stepped too close to a nest hidden inside a hollow log that looked, from every angle, like a normal hollow log. Hai was killed by a jaguar, which should have been survivable. She was a draven, her reaction speed was twice that of most humanoids, and she outweighed the cat by a factor of 4. But the jaguar had been waiting in the canopy for 6 hours without moving, and it did not attack from the front. It came from directly above, targeting the base of the skull, with a bite force calibrated over millennia to punch through the shells of river turtles. The draven skull and the river turtle shell had similar structural properties. We died to something that had no name in the coalition database. A small frog, no larger than Ethan's thumbnail, sitting on a leaf in brilliant red and yellow. Beautiful. Unmistakably colored. Wa had studied xenobiology for 11 years. He knew aposematism, the warning coloration of dangerous species. He knew, intellectually, that touching the frog was inadvisable. He had still reached out. Because it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Ethan had been 5 meters away. He had said don't. He had said it very clearly. Hughes was a vet hunter, the most skilled tracker on the expedition. She could follow a single thermal signature through a blizzard, could distinguish between 47 subspecies of prey animal by scent alone. She had never once been ambushed in 14 years of active service. The bullet ant colony had no thermal signature worth noting. It had no scent marker she recognized. It simply materialized from the leaf litter beneath her feet. 40,000 insects with stingers evolved specifically, to produce the maximum possible pain response in large mammals, and she ran. She ran in the wrong direction. She ran into the river. The river had piranhas. KRNY was taken by the heat. Not dramatically. She simply stopped sweating, her species didn't sweat, and her core temperature rose by 3 degrees over 4 hours, and then she sat down, and she did not stand back up. Ethan found her and tried. He worked on her for 20 minutes with the emergency kit. But you cannot cool down something that was never built to be cooled. By hour 10, Ethan Cross was walking alone. No, not quite alone. Behind him, staggering, came Commander Zyrex Thorne and 4 surviving soldiers, Varek, and 3 others whose names Ethan had been quietly memorizing since the briefing. They were all injured. They were all alive. They had the artifact, a small crystalline data core, the original objective, the reason 2,000 of the finest soldiers in the galaxy had come to this impossible green place. How, Zyrex said. It was not quite a question. Ethan looked at him. How what? How do you live here? Ethan was quiet for a moment, listening to the jungle around them. A howler monkey called somewhere to the north. Something moved in the canopy, probably a harpy eagle, checking whether the strange large animals below were worth investigating. The river to their left was technically full of things that could kill everyone currently standing on its bank. You stop fighting it, Ethan said finally. That's the thing everyone gets wrong. You can't win against the Amazon. It's not a fight you win. He looked at the green wall of trees around them, and something in his expression was not fear, and was not entirely love either, but was something in between. The feeling a person gets when they have grown up inside something vast and indifferent and have made a kind of peace with it. You just learn to move through it without asking it to be something it isn't. Zyrex looked at him for a long time. You are, the commander said slowly, the most terrifying thing I have ever encountered. Ethan Cross smiled. He held up the emergency kit. Wasp sting on your left arm, he said. Let me look at that before we reach the extraction point. The jungle breathed around them. Alive. Patient. 66 million years old, and not finished yet. Of the 2,000 soldiers who entered the Amazon basin, 5 returned. The artifact was recovered. Commander Zyrex Thorne filed a formal report with the Galactic Coalition recommending that Earth be reclassified from Tier 3 Deathworld to Tier 6 extinction risk. Ethan Cross filed no report. He went home to visit his grandmother. She made him soup.